At 65,000 feet above the Pacific, a stealth drone quietly recorded every heartbeat of an invasion force, every tank, every armored carrier, even the heat signatures of individual soldiers below. For hours, nothing happened. Then at 2:42 a.m., the U.S. triggered the deadliest 6 minutes any invading fleet has ever faced. By dawn, 26 ships were burning and 120 tanks lay shattered on the ocean floor. How does surveillance so precise become the backbone of total destruction? Before we move on, I would like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Imagine an eye so high above the earth that it could stare into silence itself, watching shadows move across the sea, able to track men by nothing more than the warmth of their breath on a cold night. At 65,000 feet, where jet trails vanish and radar reflections cannot climb, a single unmanned aircraft circled with wings stretched wider than a commercial jetliner. The Iranians never saw it, never even guessed it was there. The platform floated invisible, unseen to even the most advanced tracking systems on their ships. Below it, thousands of tons of armor crept forward. Naval engines churned slowly through the water, and Marines waited inside their ships, unaware that every slight movement had been measured, cataloged, and transmitted. Every 5 seconds, the drone beamed its findings across encrypted channels so secure they would take centuries to crack by brute force. From Pearl Harbor headquarters to command rooms in San Diego, glowing screens displayed the invasion like a digital map alive in real time. Tanks were not just icons on a chart. They appeared as pulsing thermal outlines, their steel shells radiating heat. Assault landing craft carried Marines close to shore, each man showing up as a flicker of light against the darker sea. The operators on watch did not just know an invasion was coming, they knew exactly how many engines were running and how many soldiers had stepped out to smoke a cigarette. For the Iranians on board, silence was their shield. They sailed under cover of darkness, speaking in whispers, radio checks nearly non-existent to avoid detection. Still, the Americans could see through that silence as though the ocean itself had betrayed them. Entire battalions of armored vehicles stacked and waiting on deck might as well have been glass, while Iranian commanders reassured themselves that no radar blips revealed their position. Above them, the invisible drone carved slow circles, detached and patient, feeding every movement into a global network of computers. Hours passed like this. The invasion fleet pressed on, whispering toward a coastal town that they had marked as their first prize. But on the American side, nothing moved. No warships surged forward, no submarines surfaced, no fighters roared overhead. It was a strange kind of waiting game, like surgeons studying an artery on a monitor before the first incision. This was not about attack yet, it was about tracing, about knowing every line of flow before severing it at exactly the right point. With each passing minute, the picture sharpened. The analysts could tell not just which company of soldiers rested where, but how many armored turrets were pointed outward and how many engines were idling cold. For U.S. commanders, the battlefield was no longer hidden, it was transparent, as if the steel decks and armored walls had turned into glass. Every tank, every launcher, every Marine in that fleet was visible without a single flare or radar ping to give away their position. And yet the Iranians moved forward confident that they were ghosts in the night. The suspense hung heavier. With every mile, the invasion crept closer. Iranian officers congratulated themselves on staying undetected, briefing their men on how soon the coastal defenses would fall. They believed their secrecy had carried them to the edge of their target without setting off alarms. But across the ocean, thousands of miles away, American commanders had already marked each vessel with digital crosshairs, fully prepared, simply choosing the exact second to end their movement. In the last quiet hours before fire, the contrast was striking. One side convinced of invisibility, the other watching every breath and every heartbeat in real time. That precision made one thing inevitable. When the order came, there would be no hesitation and no miss. The grid was drawn, the trap was set. At that moment, it was no longer a question of detection, it was simply when the strike would begin. The first blow came from above. 80 MQ-25 Stingray drones, hanging unseen at altitude, suddenly dropped into the combat zone. Each carried 2 precision-guided bombs. In less than 5 seconds, 160 bombs cut through the black sky. Targets had been marked long before impact. Command modules, fuel stores, and vehicle carriers were all struck at once. Flames tore across decks. Entire rows of armored tanks were thrown into the sea by the shock. Landing craft carrying Marines disintegrated before they could even lower their ramps. Survivors stumbled into black water illuminated only by the glow of burning steel. Amid the chaos, another player revealed itself. Deep below, the USS North Dakota, a Virginia-class submarine, had been stalking the rear of the column. As Iranian captains scrambled to turn their vessels away from the kill zone, the submarine fired heavyweight torpedoes. The undersea explosion sent shockwaves exceeding 500 pounds per square inch through the water. Hulls crumpled instantly. Some ships split in half before crews even realized they had been targeted. Vessels attempting to flee the kill box found themselves shattered from below, their crews plunging helplessly into the sea. Still, the attack did not stop. Follow-on waves surged from the coast. American missile batteries hidden ashore unleashed Harpoon anti-ship missiles, each one programmed to chase the surviving vessels through smoke and fire. From offshore, Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from submerged tubes streaked low across the waves and hammered anything still floating. Through the chaos, drones continued to circle, guiding the strikes with infrared sensors able to pierce through clouds of smoke. The layered system meant that even as survivors tried new escape routes, there was always another weapon waiting in line. Within minutes, the Iranian command structure collapsed, their radios filled with half-transmissions, overlapping orders, and silence from ships already sinking. 14 ships were confirmed destroyed almost immediately, followed by armored barges and troop carriers cut apart by constant fire. Officers tried to redirect surviving units, but every turn was predicted. Attempts to flee the trap were intercepted before they gained momentum. Command bridges vanished in fire, leaving scattered survivors leaderless in a kill zone that offered no way out. By the time the firing ended, the sea was littered with wreckage. 26 ships were gone, 120 tanks had sunk to the seabed, and the assault had been erased. Not a single American fatality was recorded. What survived of the invasion force was not an army, it was wreckage, drifting on burning water. The kill box had closed, and the ocean itself had been turned into the weapon. But while the trap delivered complete destruction in 6 minutes, it left another question hanging quietly over the battlefield. In modern war, is victory only measured in fire and steel, or does it demand something beyond survival? The 6-minute destruction of the invasion showed how sensors, timing, and layered firepower closed the door on surprise. Every tank, ship, and Marine became visible, and once inside the mapped corridor, there was no escape. No fleet can hope to reach American shores unseen when machines can read heat and movement with such clarity. Yet firepower is not legitimacy. History shows battles won by overwhelming force can spark conflicts instead of ending them. Survival was guaranteed that night, but peace was not. In a world of kill boxes and invisible surveillance, can deterrence alone prevent the next war?